I'm Dustin Chase with Texas Art and Film and Galveston.com, and I'm here with Oscar winner Billy Bob Thornton. And so I haven't seen the film yet because I'm seeing it tonight with you guys. But I wanted to know, what was it about Jayne Mansfield's car that made you want to be so involved? Obviously, you're acting in it, you wrote the screenplay, you're directing it. I mean, was it something personal that made you want to get that involved with the film again?
Well, I think I'm the best at doing my own movies, you know, when I'm directing or writing. I'm not what you would call well, I'll put it this way. If they're doing a new Star Trek movie or something, I'm not the guy to call.
Right.
So I only direct movies that I write. And, you know, I feel that I'm only the best at character movies, you know, things like that. And I just had this idea in my head for a long time about the effects of war on families and tragedy on families, you know, how it manifests itself in families and how different generations view tragedy and the communication within the family about those tragedies. And my dad was very, very interested for some reason in looking at car wrecks and stuff like that. So from the time I was a little kid, he used to take my brother and myself out to these car wrecks and hear about something out on the highway. And so from a young age, I saw some pretty bad things. And they actually brought Jayne Mansfield's car to my town when I was a kid. They used to bring sideshows around, you know what I mean? Like they'd bring Bonnie and Clyde's car that had bullet holes in it when they were shot. The car Jayne Mansfield died in, and we paid 50 cents or $1 or whatever to look at the car. It's kind of morbid, but you know, that's what they did. And I always wanted to put that in a movie. But I had this other idea about this generational differences, you know, in terms of how people view war and how it affects them. And so I decided, you know, to throw these things all together in this movie. And just shut them up, didn't it?
Yeah.
For a minute. But anyway, so it was an idea that I'd been tossing around for a while, and then finally I called my old buddy Tom Everson. We hadn't written together in ages, and I said, "Do you remember when they brought Jayne Mansfield's car around and everything?" And his dad and my dad were both in the service in the Korean War, and I had uncles and everything in World War II, and my grandfather was in World War I, and just that whole military history. And right now that's on people's minds so much, even though this takes place in 1969 during the height of Vietnam. So in a lot of ways this movie is a prologue because we still haven't learned the lessons of the past.
Well, now, throughout your career, you've seemed to work with a lot of really great ensembles. I mean, one of my favorites is Bandits, and it seems like wherever you go, you really attract the big actors, and so that's no exception here. You've got tons of great actors, so I wondered, were there certain characters that you thought of, certain names that you wanted to cast or bring in? Because a lot of them are your friends, so I just wondered how involved you were with the casting and why you picked certain people for certain characters.
Yeah, I did. I actually knew pretty much who we were going to have, and a lot of them are friends of mine. I wrote the parts, the part that I play and the part that Duvall plays. I wrote those from the beginning about, you know, for us, you know, and you know, Duvall's been like my mentor over the years and everything, and he and I wanted to do a movie together again, and so it's easier when you're writing for someone, you know what I mean? Like if you know who you're writing for. It makes it easier. But then Kevin Bacon and I go back a while, and John Hurt and I have known each other 25 years and never worked with each other, and so we got all of them. And the people that I didn't know before, maybe that I did have to go through a casting process for, were like Ray Stevenson and Frances O'Connor and Catherine Lanassa. And I was really happy that you know, they all fit the parts so well, and I'm really happy Shawnee Smith also. And then Ron White, who plays our sort of car salesman brother-in-law, who's very funny in the movie. It's a drama, but I think sometimes dramas are a little over-earnest, and then comedies are just funny.
Right.
And the fact is, in real life,
it's a mixture of both.
It's everything. So this is a drama done in a darkly humorous way, and this brother-in-law character is played by Ron White, and who's a Texan, and Ron does a great job. He's in a few scenes, wonderful job in it, and I've known Ron for a long time. So yeah, it's a mixture of friends and new people that are now friends, and also Robert Patrick, who's a terrific actor who I'd worked with before. And yeah, it was a great thing down there in Georgia with all these pals.
Well, speaking of Georgia and writing specific parts for people that you've worked with, I'm a huge Cate Blanchett fan, and you first worked with her in Pushing 10, and then you wrote The Gift, and then you starred with her, and you both got nominated for Golden Globes for Bandits, which is one of my favorite movies. So I wondered, what was it about Cate Blanchett that made you want to work with her over and over again? Was there, because I haven't got to interview her yet, and you're the closest I've got to her, so I wanted to know.
Well, in Pushing 10, that was, she was just mentioned, you know, and Cate was known then, but not hugely, you know, and so, and I'd seen her in a couple of things, and when they said, hey, we're talking to Cate Blanchett, I said, please get her, you know, because I love her. And she's a terrific person, too, a great actress and terrific person. And then for The Gift, Sam Raimi just cast her in The Gift. And once Tom and I wrote that script, it was kind of Paramount's deal, and they just did the thing. And then for Bandits, I'm not sure exactly how that came about, but I know Bruce Willis and I were both very high on Cate, so I'm sure we put our 2 cents worth in. But it just worked out that I got to work with her several times, and you know, she's one of my very favorite actresses, and one of my favorite people too.
I'm glad to hear that. So back to you with, I mean, you have quite an eclectic filmography, and I'm wondering, of all the stuff that you've done, is there something that stands out as maybe like a big challenge, or just something that stands out, whether it's good or bad, in your career that you know, that always comes to your mind, that you think, wow, I don't either know how I did that, or I'm so proud of that, or I mean, is there one thing that just really stands out about everything else? Which I know is hard because you've done so many amazing things.
You know, it's funny, probably the hardest parts are things that maybe aren't the more indie kind of movies that I've been known for. I mean, you know, like my favorites are Sling Blade and Monsters Ball and Man Who Wasn't There and Simple Plan. I mean, those are my kind of movies, and they're probably my favorites. Although I love doing Bad Santa and Bandits. I mean, I love doing both those movies. But in terms of a challenge, when I did Armageddon, which is, you know, one of only a couple of big event movies I've ever done, I did Eagle Eye and Armageddon. Those movies were probably more of a challenge for me because, you know, I was playing the head of NASA in Armageddon, and that dialogue is all NASA stuff. So you have to learn what that stuff means, because if you don't learn what it means, you just sound like you're reading stuff off a card, you know what I mean? And so I really had to, you know, study up on that and talk to NASA guys and everything. So I would say a lot of work went into doing that. And then in Eagle Eye, there's a lot of FBI stuff and everything. So you have to work on that kind of thing, you know. So those were harder because I had to study more for them. Usually I play characters that I kind of fit, you know, they fit like a glove. And these were ones I had to actually really get into. Pushing 10 also. I mean, I had to go to air traffic control school for that up in Canada. And if we had gone to that school, Cusack and I would have been screwed because that stuff's hard. I can land a plane in Newark, New Jersey now, you know, just so you know. So if you're ever around Newark and you need to land, call me.
So on the opposite spectrum of that, I mean, again, you've done so many amazing, incredible things. Is there anything that you haven't done that you still see as a challenge that maybe you want to tackle?
You know, I would love to do a movie about, I've always wanted to play a professor. You know, like I played the President of the United States in Love Actually, and I loved doing that. You know, that was very cool to be able to do that. But for some reason, my whole life, you know, like for instance, when Sidney Poitier played, you know, To Sir With Love, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I was always fascinated with those guys, you know, the professors in a college or whatever. And I'm not sure, at least in recent times, they've really done a great movie about college. I mean, Animal House, but it's a comedy, you know what I mean? I'd like to do like a serious drama about the trials and tribulations of college and the relationship between professors and the administration and the students, and something like that. I've always wanted to do a movie like that. I don't know what it would be. I have to get somebody else to write it because I lasted a year and a half in college. Maybe that's why I want to do it.
Well, I talked with Edward Burns this week. We were talking about his film that he had up here at the Austin Film Festival. And of course, you guys are going to be working together pretty soon. He said as soon as you get a lead in your new film. And of course, he's a writer, director, actor, kind of same as you. And I said, there seems to be so few of you guys, but the ones that there are seems to be just multi-talented. And but anyway, my point of bringing him up is I've tried to ask everybody this year what their favorite movie is this year, and he said he'd be really busy, and I'm sure you have too, but he said his favorite was Moonrise Kingdom. So what's your favorite thing that you've seen this year?
You know what, I haven't seen that one yet, but just from the trailer I want to see it. And I love Wes Anderson, and of course Bruce is a good friend of mine, and Bill Murray I know a little bit. I just love those guys, and it looks like my kind of movie. I would love to see it, and I will at some point. But when I got an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and
movies are the last thing on your mind.
And when I go to the movies, it's like Happy Feet, and stuff like that, because I take my little girl. But obviously this year, the great news is that around this time of year you start to get the Academy screeners,
and that's when the good stuff.
And then I get to see all of them. So that's a great thing. But there are supposed to be a lot of really good ones out there right now, and our movie's not going to be out till next year, so I'll be hopefully part of all of that next year. We'll see.
I hope so.
I hope so too. But and I'd like to see that one with Joaquin
the Master.
I saw a trailer for that.
I'd like to see that. Well, that's all I've got, but I'm really looking forward to see. It's hard when I haven't seen the movie to talk to you more about it, but I saw the trailer and I was like, wow, that looks really fantastic. So
they're not making many movies like this. It's just a real tough sell, because it takes place in '69, and it's maybe not exactly. It's not like an urban movie or anything like that. Is that? Sure.
Must be. Not me. Billy Bob on the phone.
My girlfriend, she insists that I get a cell phone. I didn't even have one for like 2 years ago.
Well, I'm Dustin Chase for Texas Art and Film and Galveston.com, and we really appreciate Billy Bob taking the time to talk to us.